Howdy ho, fourth graders. Today is Friday, April 17th. You should be watching this for your math lesson. And today, the lesson that I want you to be on is the one that says equivalent decimals 17.3. Okay. Now, before we talk about equivalent decimals, I have a couple things I want to show you. Maybe noticing like there's all this stuff down here on my dot cam. Okay. I'm going to show you a couple of things. Okay. Decimals are like base 10 blocks. Okay. So if I have the decimal, hold on, I've got too much stuff. If I have the decimal 1/10, okay, I'm basically saying, okay, here are all of my tenths, right? They're broken up into little tenths pieces, but I'm going to make them look like sticks because this is kind of how they look. Hello. Oh, this one doesn't have, okay. I'll just put them all like this. This is how it looks on IXL when you're talking about tenths, right? It has all of these little blocks. Okay. So I have 10 of these sticks. Now, if I were to shade a couple of them, like let's say I were to color this one, I would be coloring 1/10. If I were to color two of these, I'd be coloring 2/10. 2 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. 10 of these 1/10 blocks make up a 100ths block. Notice how they fit nicely on there. Okay. And on your IXLs, you also have these 100 blocks, okay? And we count them by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So 10 1/10 blocks make up 1/100th block. And if I were to have 10 100th blocks, I would get this big guy, which is the thousandths. 10 of these guys fit on this to make this my thousandths block. So the reason I have these out for you is to show you when we're comparing today how to use these and how to use these in your mind and visualize these when comparing what's bigger or what's smaller. Okay? So let's open up. I'm going to move these out of the way. Let's open up our packets to our equivalent decimals. Here we go again, forgetting to zoom you in. Okay. Equivalent decimals, 17.3. Okay. They're going to ask you which decimals are bigger and which ones are smaller. Okay. And we're going to use this hundredths block and these 1/10 blocks to help you visualize. Okay. So they're asking, what's bigger, 1/10, one of these, or 10 hundredths, right? Tenths, hundredths. This is a hundredths spot because it ends in the hundredths place. So they're asking, what's bigger? 1/10, that's this guy right here. Or they're asking 10 hundredths. Well, here's a hundredths block. So all of these little guys are a hundredth. So let's count out 10 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. This is 10 hundredths, and this is 1/10. They look exactly the same to me. Let's see if they fit on top of each other. Yeah, they're exactly the same. 1/10 is the same as 10 hundredths, which would be, this is hard to do in a video. Hold on. Let me use my phone. Which would be 10 of, wow, this guy, get it together. 10 of these guys right here. Okay, they are the same. 1/10 or 10 hundredths. That's why I have these guys, to show you and make it easy for you. All right, so these are equal. Okay, the only time I'm going to use these base 10 blocks is when there are ones that are kind of tricky, that kind of look the same. Like this one. This one kind of looked the same. Okay, all right, what's bigger? 23 hundredths or 32 hundredths? Well, they both fall in the hundredths spot. So this is easy. What's bigger, 23 or 32? Obviously 32. Okay. 65 tenths, hundredths, or 56 hundredths. They both fall in the hundredths, so now we just need to look at the number, 65 or 56. 65 is obviously bigger. Okay. How about this one? 3, maybe if you saw it, 3 tenths and 30 hundredths. Okay, here we go. Let's use this. Here are 30 hundredths, 10, 20, 30. Here are 3 tenths, 1, 2, 3. Do they look the same? Do they fit right on top? Yes, they do. So these are equal. Are you noticing a pattern? This one and this one looked very similar, and they ended up being equal. Whenever you have a tenth and then right next to it you do the hundredth, they're usually going to be equal. So like 1/10 or 10 hundredths, 3 tenths or 30 hundredths. Okay, they end up being equal. All right, 22 hundredths or 23 hundredths. Well, they're both in the hundredths. All we have to do now is compare 22 and 23. 23 is bigger. 9 tenths. Now don't get tripped up on this one. The 0 comes first. So this one is not the same as like one of these or one of these. This is saying 9 tenths or 9 hundredths. 9 tenths or 9 hundredths. Hold on. There's somebody at my door. Just a second. I got to pause you. Then I'll be back. Hi. Okay, I'm back. I just had to help somebody with a question. Okay, so looking at this one, 9 tenths or 9 hundredths. Now, some of these you can kind of write out too. Like I know this is 9 tenths and this is 9 out of 100. So pretend you have like a group of people and 9 out of 10 of them are wearing blue shirts. And then 9 out of 100 of them are only wearing blue shirts. In a group of only 10 people, this is going to look like way more than this one. 9 tenths, if I have this block, okay, 9 tenths is this whole stick except for this little guy, okay? If I look at this huge block, 9 tenths is only this little bit right here, this little bit right here out of the grand scheme of all of this. That's not very much. So 9 tenths is bigger than only 9 out of 100. 76 hundredths or 67 hundredths. Again, they're both in the hundredths. So all we have to do is look at the number, 76 or 67. Which one's bigger? 76. Okay. Here we go. This is one that might be an equal one. 50 hundredths or 5 tenths. Let's take out my block. 50 hundredths, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay? Or 5 tenths. So it's this or 5 of 5 of these single sticks. Let's see if 5 of these single sticks fit on here, and if they do, we know they're equal. 1, 2, 3 tenths, 4 tenths, 5 tenths is the same as 50 hundredths. So these are equal. Okay. All right. Now, on the next ones, there are a couple on here that we are not going to do because we took out a page in this packet because it's not something we actually need to cover. So we're going to cross out a couple of these. Okay. So we can cross off this one. We're not going to do that one. We're not going to do this one. And I think that's it. Okay. So they want us to write an equivalent decimal for each of these. Okay. So we're going to be doing a lot of the similar ones that looked like this, that looked like this, and that looked like this. Okay, that's what we're practicing right now. So they want us to show 70 hundredths as just another way to write it as a decimal. So if I have 70 hundredths, 1, 2, 3, or excuse me, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 hundredths, how many of these 1/10 sticks can fit on this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1/10 sticks can also fit on 70 1/100ths. So we can also write this as 0.7. 7 of these 1/10 sticks measured to 70 of these. Okay? Looking at number 11, 2/10. So 2 of these guys, 2/10. That's what this is saying. What is another way we could write that using hundredths? 10, 20. I can say 20 hundredths is the same as 2/10. So I can write the number 0.20, 20. It falls in the tenths, hundredths spot. 20 hundredths is the same as 2/10. Moving on to 13, they're saying 3/10. So 3 of these guys. How can I write that in hundredths to make it the same? 10, 20, 30 hundredths will be the same as 3/10. 0.30. Tenths, hundredths, ends in the hundredths. This is saying 50 hundredths. So as soon as you see hundredths, you got to take out this. As soon as you see tenths, you got to take out this. Okay, so they're asking for 50 hundredths. All right, so here's my hundredths bar. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Cover that up. How many of these 1/10 bars will fit on 50 hundredths? 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10. So 50 hundredths is also the same as 5/10. Here's 7/10. This one is written as a fraction. It doesn't matter here. There we go. Okay, 7/10. So 7 of these 1/10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They can fit on how many of these hundredth sections? 10, 20, 30. I'm counting these below as tens. 40, 50, 60, 70 hundredths is the same as 7/10. So 0.70, 70 hundredths is the same as 7/10. And finally, we have 90 hundredths, which we know would be how many? I dropped one. This is hard. I don't have like a big spot to have you guys sit like by my barn table or something. 90, I'm dropping them, hundredths. Where's my camera? It's so hard. I have things over here. I have something here. And I have, okay, 90 hundredths. How many of these 1/10 bars will I need to fit 90? 9. So 0.9. Okay. Obviously, you don't have these at home, but this was just to help you visualize how tenths and hundredths, you can write them with decimals that equal the same thing, even though they don't look the same. Okay, now let's move on. We can also, write an equivalent decimal. It says use the models to help. So what we're going to do is we are going to add all these up, and figure out what the answer is. So I have tenths here. So I have 3/10, and I have 4 hundredths. If I add 3/10 plus 4 hundredths, again, all we have to do is line up our decimals. 0.3 plus 0.04. 4 plus nothing is 4. 3 plus 0 is 3. Bring down your decimal and a 0. We know our answer is going to be 34 hundredths. Now let's count. 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's in a hundreds block, so I need this to end in the hundredths place. Next one. How many of these are shaded in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these are the tenths, so I need to make it 7 tenths. How many of these are shaded in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but this is a hundredth, so I need to make this 5 hundredths. So add in your 0 so that your 5 ends in the hundredths place. And now if we were to add them, we would get 0.75. 0.7 plus 0.05. 5 plus nothing is 5. 7 plus 0 is 7. Bring down your decimal. Boom shakalaka. If I'm going too fast, this part is kind of getting a little fast. Just make sure you pause the video, you go back, you watch parts of it again. Kind of all over the place with all of my things down here. I'm sorry. All right, how many of these are shaded? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is a tenth, so I need 0.9, 9 tenths. How many of these are shaded? 1, 2, 3, but this is a hundredth. So I have to make this 0.3 hundredths. And if I were to add these up, I would get 93 hundredths. 0.9 plus 0.03. 3 plus nothing is 3. 9 plus 0 is 9. Boom, shakalaka. Okay? All right. Let's flip her over. This back page, now I can zoom you out. This back page is the same thing as what you were doing on the front page. They're just using money now to model decimals. Wow, words. So let's do a couple examples just for your help. Let's see. It says, how can you use pennies to show 60 cents? Well, 60 cents would be 6 dimes, but they want to use pennies. Okay, and I know that there's 10 pennies in a dime. So if I only need 6 dimes, how many pennies would I need out of 100? I would need 60 pennies out of 100 to get 60 cents, right? You count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way to 60. 60 pennies out of 100, because we know 100 pennies equals $1. 60 pennies would give you 60 out of 100, or 60 cents. And then how could you use dimes to show the same amount? I would use 6, but we know all of the dimes are worth how much? 10. So you need to have 10 as your bottom number here. Okay, so that's just a way that you can use money as well. We know when we talk about pennies, there's 100 pennies in $1. So 100 has to be our bottom number. If we use dimes, we know that there's 10 dimes in $1. So then we use 10 as our bottom number. Okay, now all of these are just exactly the same as what we did on the other side. Okay, let's see. I want you to cross off. Are there any for you to cross off? Yes, you can cross off these two because we didn't talk about memorizing some fractions into decimal form. So you can cross off those two. The rest of this page, there's only a couple problems on here. This is all extra practice for you if you want it. If you maybe want me to do this practice page with you, I'd be totally fine if you message me and you say, hey, Mrs. Sky, can we do the practice page together on a one-on-one call? Brilliant. Yes, let's do it. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to say your extra work. Remember, extra work is optional. You don't have to do it. Extra work will be this page. I'll call it page 465. Okay, that's extra. It's optional. Here's your homework. You have to do it. IXL math homework. And we're going to do a couple together. Is going to be T5 to 70. Sorry, 70, this guy, 80. My bad. T5 to 80. Extra work, finish this page 465. IXL that your homework is T5 to 80. So let's go over to T5. Let's look at a couple of them. They're just asking about equivalent fractions. Okay, they're going to show you some equivalent fractions or decimals, and they're going to ask you, are these equivalent? Yes or no? Decimals, not fractions, excuse me. So some of these are like pretty obvious. 8/10 or 400 tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Are those anywhere close to the same? No. Now they're going to ask you questions like this. What decimal is equivalent to 80/10, 80/100ths? Wow, I'm just all over the place. So remember, when we're talking about hundredths, we're talking about this guy. How many tenth bars could fit onto 80 of these? 8 of these bars could fit onto 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 of these. So we want 8/10 is the same as 80/100ths. Which decimal is equivalent to 0.0? It doesn't matter how many zeros you have. If it's 0, it's 0, honey. Are 0.2 and 0.60 equivalent? No, they're not even the same numbers. Which decimal is equivalent to, now here's a 0, okay, so our number is ending in tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So how many tenths or hundredths could you use to get 50 thousandths? So that would be the same as 5 hundredths, right? Because 5 hundredths would be, hold on. Yeah, sorry, I had to think about that one for a second. Okay, so that's how you do these IXLs, is you just figure out, are they equivalent? And if they are equivalent, you say yes or no. And then they're going to ask you, they're going to show you one, and they're going to ask you which ones are equivalent. Again, if you need help, message me on Class Dojo or GoGuardian, or what's the other one? Google Classroom. If you even want to do the rest of this page together on like a one-on-one call, go for it. That's fine with me. I know this lesson I was distracted by somebody earlier. I had to pause. So I apologize. This video I'm kind of like, ooh, all over the place. So anyway, if you need help, just let me know. You know where to find me.